I would like to discuss about architectural motifs in Palashan art of Bengal, that is circa 38th to 13th century. But before going to that, I'd like to discuss about the. I would like to discuss about the previous period. So, by architectural motif, we mean the delineation of an architectonic form, either in part or in whole, in any work of art. It is used mainly for enhancing the decorative value of the concerned work. Such motifs can be found in Indian art of both the early and early medieval periods. First, I will talk about such motifs in early Indian art, and then I will move on to the early medieval period. To be
लेट हो जाए लड़की बस 1.25 घंटा बचल है
more specific to the early medieval Palashan art of Bengal.
1:30 बचत था हो जाता है यार
Being related to a structural monument, architectural motifs exist in time and space, and hence artworks which bear these motifs can be reasonably dated, or at least the period of their creation can be reasonably guessed. Reconstructing the architecture of a period by studying the architectural motifs delineated in artworks is particularly useful in cases where there are no surviving monuments from the period. As an element of art composition, architectural motifs of religious and secular edifices appear in independent sculptures mm, as well as relief sculptures of the pre-Christian and early Christian eras. When, as a vehicle of communication, it largely served the needs of an expanding religion like Buddhism. These motifs can be seen in specimens of early Indian art found from various places. Being mainly narrative in character, early Indian sculptural art in the religious monuments of Bharut, Shachi, Bodh Gaya, Amravati, Nagarjunakonda, Karle, Kanheri, etc., contains various religious and secular architectonic forms and motifs in the delineation of a story or an event. A medallion from Bharut, preserved in the Indian Museum of Kolkata, while depicting the episode of the gift of Jetavana by Anatha Pindada to Buddha, illustrates two halls of a monastery with tunnel vaulted roofs. It is called Gaja Prishtakriti and closely resembles Chaitas. Of these two halls, one is designated as Gandhakuti and the other as Koshambihuti. Another specimen, also from Bharut, includes the motif of a two-storied rectangular shrine identified as Bodhighar, that is Bodhi tree. It has a barrel-vaulted roof with two arched doors. A separate Dhwajastambha stands in front of the shrine. Am I audible to everyone? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now okay. While the Bharat Stupa survives in remains of its gateways and their adjuncts, the great Shachi Stupa still exists in all its majesty. All its four Toranas present an array of sculptures. These Toranas also contain architectural motifs, both religious and secular. Prominent among the religious motifs is the Stupa motif. A representative instance is the inside top panel of the west pillar of the North Torano. It depicts the Mahaparinirvana scene of Buddha. Elaborate in form and design, it is placed within a railing fitted with a torano of two architraves. Architectural motifs of secular affiliation can be seen depicted in reliefs of Jataka stories. This specimen depicts the heart of a commoner. Another specimen depicts a multi-storied mansion together with their various architectural components and the gates of a city. A panel in this relief also depicts the drive and great departure of Prince Siddhartha. Like the stupas at Bharut and Shachi, those at Bodh Gaya also have architectural motifs among its sculptural remains. Many relief panels from Bodh Gaya portray elongated stupa motifs along with the figure of the Buddha. A fragmented stone plaque from Bodh Gaya clearly shows a stupa motif emerging out of a lotus with 5 chhatras. It is placed under a monofile arch resting on 2 pillars. On the left side of the stupa motif, there is an image of Buddha in Bhumisparsha mudra. Sculptural remains from other parts in the subcontinent tell the same tale. Noted art centers or regions of the early centuries of the Christian era, such as Mathura and Gandhar, have yielded objects with architectural motifs on them. A mottled red sandstone plaque of circa 1st century Christian era from Mathura carries the representation of a giant stupa standing on a high basement with an approaching flight of steps. A high torana with decorative architraves, ornamented pillars, a pradakshina patha with railing, and 2 niches with trefoil arch on both sides of the basement. The sculptural art of Gandhara offers multifarious architectural motifs of Indian thematic composition with Hellenistic attributes. A 3rd century dark grey sea stone specimen of Gandhar sculptural art from the Swat Valley, now preserved in a private collection in Delhi, shows 2 worshippers walking in procession under an arched niche decorated with leaf pendants, griffin circles. This is probably a gateway. Circle means a plain low block or plane serving as a support for the column on statue or as the foundation of a wall. In the south of India, sculptural art of the Amravati repertory display the use of architectural motifs more abundantly than those of Mathura. At Amravati, both religious and secular architectural motifs have been employed in the manner of Shachi. A railing medallion of marble stone from Amravati of about 1st century CE depicting the episode of Buddha subduing the mad elephant Nalagiri in the city street is composed of various architectural motifs such as residential mansions, windows, balconies, and pillared gateway. At the right side, another fragmentary marble stone of the same period portrays the scene of the great departure of Buddha through the royal gatehouse fitted with a torano of 3 architraves. As at Amravati, architectural motifs found favor with the artist of the day also at other places such as Nagarjunakonda, Jaggayapeta, and Ghanteshala in Andhra Pradesh, and Kale and Kanheri in Maharashtra. I do not wish to go into a detailed discussion of the specimens found from these places due to lack of time. Now, I will talk about architectural motifs delineated in artworks of the early medieval Palashana period of Eastern India. I will mainly focus on 2 architectural motifs here, stupas and devas. I have not come across any secular architectural motifs in the artworks of the period. Among the various religious architectural motifs that appear in Palashana art, stupas and devas are the most widely depicted ones. These motifs were not only confined to independent sculptures or sculptures engraved on structural monuments, but was also extended to other works of art, such as coins, seals, wood carvings, and terracotta plaques. Occasionally, epigraphical records are also seen bearing such motifs. The techniques adopted for the delineation of architectural motifs were sought to be drawn in linear rhythm, though attempts at rendering volume to them through relief are by no means rare. As is well known, there are no extant religious edifices of the Palashana period either in Bihar or in Bengal, the 2 major territories over which the Palashana Empire extended. The absence of extant religious edifices forms a major constraint in the proper appreciation of the religious architecture of the period. However, it is possible to construe the architecture of the period from the architectural motifs of religious edifices depicted in the art objects of the period. Stupa motifs can be seen in several art objects of the period. Sometimes multiple representations of the motif appear in a single piece of artwork. The stylistic evolution of the stupa architectural form at different phases of development of ancient and early medieval Indian architecture can be discerned through the transformation of its different components. Ondo, this is Ondo, Bedi, Medhi, Hormika, Chhatravali, and Dhaja. This is Chhatravali and Dhaja. And here it is also banner also. The stupa motif in Palashan art registers almost all the stylistic transformations that the components of the stupa architectural form went through. During the 1st century of Palash rule, that is in 8th-9th century Christian era, architectural idioms of the pre-Palo tradition remained almost unaffected. The representative specimens from the repertoire of the 9th century attest to the existence of stupas which belong to earlier stylistic idioms as seen in the monuments of the Mauryas, the Shungos, and the Shatavahanas. Many of the examples of 9th to 11th century show the prevalence of the Kushano type of stupa with an icon of the Buddha placed in a sculptured niche and a redented square bedi. Some later specimens of the same century show a tendency towards further elevation of the stupa structure by elongating its upper part. This was done by increasing the gradually receding number of parasols. With the elongation of the structural composition of the stupa, its accessory parts also changed their heights and forms. The comparatively low drum or medhi of earlier periods thus grew the height in relation to its diameter. The ondo, the principal component of a stupa formation, sank architectonically to a subordinate position, and the chhatras being superimposed one above the other assumed the shape of a tall conical spire. The three basic features of stupa architecture that underwent significant modification in subsequent periods come to our view for the first time during the period of the Mauryas. They are Hormika, Chhatra, and Medhi, surrounding the Ondo. The increase of Chhatras or parasols to three distinguishes the stupa architecture of the period. Assimilating almost all the distinguishing features of stupa architecture of the earlier periods, the stupa architecture of the Palashan period gradually evolved into a definitive form. A stupa motif with three parasols is depicted. On an inscribed stone image of Maitreya from Nalanda, datable to the 9th century. This image is datable to the 9th century. This image is now preserved in the Indian Museum. The stupa motif here rests on the top of a pilaster to the right of the head of the main figure. Stupa architecture underwent further transformation during the Shatavahana period. Features of the Shatavahana stupa can be seen in some specimens of the Palashan art. The bulbous ondo, looks like bubbles. From that, the bulbous ondo is a terminology. On bulbous ondo in such a stupa is placed on the developed medhi on a bedi. This type of stupa appears in some terracottas and paintings of the period. 1 minute. Of the period. This bulbous ondo in such a stupa is placed on a developed medhi on a bedi. This type of stupa appears in some terracottas and paintings of the period. A pair of inscribed terracotta ceilings of about 11th century, one from Nalanda and the other from Bodhgaya, depict a number of stupas of this type. The ondos here are stunted to some extent. Both these seals are now preserved in the Ashutosh Museum of Indian Art, University of Calcutta. At the right side, we can see in a manuscript of Ashtashahasrika Pragya Paramita, now preserved in the Cambridge University Library, the painting bearing the descriptive label Barendra Tulakhetre Lokonatha shows similar stupa motifs. Here, small stupa motifs with bulbua sando on Medhi above Bedi are visible. Stupa motifs showing images of the Buddha within a sculpted niche and redented square Bedi appear in the art objects of the Palo-Shino period. This feature seems to have been inspired by the stylistic feature of a Kushana stupa. The best example of such a stupa motif appears in an inscribed stone image of the Buddha from Kurkihar of about 10th 11th century and now preserved in the Indian Museum. In this specimen of stone carving, the Bedi, Medhi, Hormika appear in the shape of redented squares. The figure of a seated Buddha is meticulously carved out within a niche on a surface of the ribbed undo. Besides the stylistic evolution of the stupa architecture in India proper, the stupa formation underwent significant transformation in the neighboring countries. The pagan Burmese type of stupa with bell-shaped undo with medial flights leading to the Bedi is noticeable in some stupa motifs in Palo-Shino art. The motif appears in a stone sculpture of Buddha from Dinajpur depicting in the Mahaparinirvana scene. This is kept in the Indian Museum. The motif, for instance, can be seen in a piece of 11th century stone sculpture from Khalishadi, South 24 Parganas district of West Bengal, now preserved in the Ashutosh Museum. The sculpture depicts the Parinirvana scene of the Buddha. The Ondo in the image appears as a blooming lotus. Carefully see, here is a blooming lotus type on it. The motif is also seen in another specimen, a late 11th century manuscript painting of Ashtashahasrika Pragya Paramita, now preserved in the Asiatic Society of Kolkata. Here a pair of stupas is shown emerging out of full-blown lotuses placed on a high basement with the bloomed lotus petals turned downwards. As mentioned earlier, the main components of a fully developed stupa from ground level upwards are Bedi or ground balustrade separating the sacred precincts from the outside. Number 2, Medhi or drum. Number 3 is Ondo or dome. Number 4 is Hormika or a pavilion for setting a shaft. Number 5 is Chatrus or umbrellas surrounding a jashti or shaft. And number 6 is Dhaja or finial. Here you can see everything is visible here. Much of the elevation of the superstructure of a stupa and its formation depends on the basement of a stupa or Bedi. The stupa motifs in the art of Palo-Shino period reveal two types of Bedis, circular and four-sided. The Medhi or drum is also of varied shapes, circular, four-sided, hexagonal and lotus shape. Among the four different types of Medhi, an illustrated manuscript of Ashtashahasrika Pragya Paramita, preserved in the Asiatic Society, Kolkata, shows a pair of stupa motifs with lotus-shaped Medhi on either side of a palm tree, on the right of the painted representation of Dipankara Buddha. Dhajas or finials of different forms appear in the motifs or in the art of the period. Flamboyant finial, vase-shaped finial, and finial with crescent and sun, occasionally with a rainwater dish or varshasthal placed below the crescent and sun. In the illustrated manuscript of Ashtashahasrika Pragya Paramita, the two stupa motifs flanking the palm tree shows a decorated canopy with two suspending festoons and varshasthal. Here you can see this. This is the canopy, and below it there is a varshasthal, and banner is also, and the sun and moon, finial. Finial with crescent and sun is also distinctly visible on the right side of the central figure of the Avalokiteshwar in the manuscript painting of the Karanda Buha Sutra. Here is also sun and moon finial. It's very much prominent here. Now to move on to Deul motifs. Deul means temple. Quantitatively, Deul motifs are fewer than Stupa motifs, but this comparative paucity of Deul motifs does not necessarily indicate their relative insignificance as an architectural form. Deul motifs can be seen in artworks of both Buddhist and Brahmanical inspiration. They are also not rare in Jain art. Some of these motifs represent a microcosm of a real architectural build-up. Numerous stone sculptures, a fair number of manuscript paintings, specimens of wood carvings, and terracottas amply bear this out. As I said earlier, the absence of extant religious edifices of the Palashino period is a major constraint in the appreciation of Palashino religious architecture. But this loss is to some extent compensated by the various architectural motifs depicted in the artworks of the period. These architectural motifs provide significant insights into Palashino temple architecture in general. It seems that during the 10th 11th centuries, at least two types of composite Deul forms were devised by the builders. Miniature paintings demonstrate that their basic form was Bhadra, but as they were surmounted by a stupa or a shikhara, they were designated as Stupa Shishya Bhadra and Shikhar Shishya Bhadra Deus respectively. The Bhadra Deul motif seems to have appealed most to the imagination to the sculptors and artists of the period. Some of the manuscript paintings of the period bearing a composite type of Deul motif, classified as Stupa Shishya Bhadra Deul, show a superstructure of a single or double-tiered sloping roof, four-faceted or eight-faceted as the case may be, surmounted by a stupa as a finial. This type of single and double-tiered sloping roofs is very common in building constructions in rural Bengal. They are designated as Char Chala and At Chala. Besides these, there are also Chaitya Garbha and Chaitya Guha Garbha Deul motifs. Data obtained from sculptural art and pictorial repertoire are corroborative evidence from iconographic texts such as Sadhanamala and Karanda Buha Sutra show that some sort of cave or monolithic architecture developed during the period. The structural configuration of such a deul appears from the front like a barrel vaulted niche which is surmounted by a chaitya, sometimes tiered in formation. The impressive number of specimens executed in different media exhibiting such a unique form of deul architecture proves its wide popularity. Deul architecture can be broadly classified into Bhadra or Pira, Rekho or Shikharo Deul, Deul of composite form, that is Stupa Shirsha Bhadra Deul and Shikhara Shirsha Bhadra Deul. And Shikhar and the Chaitya Garbha Deul. Bhadra Deul motifs generally exhibit only two principal parts, that is Gandhi and Mastaka with Amalaka and finial. An important and almost common feature of Bhadra Deul motif is Pira, which is separated from one, separated the other by a Khandi. Bhadra Deul motifs also show Triratha and Pancharatha projections. This Uma Maheshwar image from Biral in Bangladesh exhibits a meticulously carved Bhadra Deul motif with a mastako and a prominently carved amalako and a kalasha. It is a beautiful collection of the Ashutosh Museum of Indian Art, University of Calcutta. A 12th century stone Alingana Murti of Uma Maheshwar from Mahasthangarh Museum, Bangladesh. It is preserved in the Mahasthangarh Museum, Bangladesh. Shows the divine couple seated within a trefoiled arch. Above the arch rises a temple with three diminishing tiers, the uppermost of which is surmounted by a well-developed amalako, crowned ultimately by a typical finial fashion in accordance with the conical apex of this tier. At the right side, we can see the Bhadra Deul motifs engraved on the Buddha image from Madhyapara, and the two Uma Maheshwar images from Biral and Mahasthangarh bear an interesting feature. The topmost tier below the Amalako bears depictions of animal figures. Here you can see the animal figures. Here it is also, here also. animal figures. At the projected corners of the uppermost tier, figures of two sitting antelopes or bulls facing opposite directions are seen. Similar Bhadra Deul are also seen in some manuscript paintings of the period. This particular feature is also found in the temples of Parashurameshwar, Lingaraja and Rajarani in Bhubaneswar. Bhadra motifs are also seen in a number of Buddhist images found from Bangladesh. An 11th century stone image of Ratna Shambhav from Bikrampur near Dhaka in Bangladesh, now housed in the Barendra Research Museum, and an 11th century inscribed stone image of Buddha from Madhapara, that is also from Bangladesh, now preserved in the Bangladesh National Museum, may be cited as examples. In both the images, the pictures show a Pancharatha projection. And at the right corner, we can see the Bhadra motif can also be seen in a 9th century stone sculpture of Jain Tirthankar Chandra Prabhu from Bihar, now preserved in the Indian Museum, Kolkata. It depicts niche of an elaborately carved out replica of a Pancharatha Bhadra. All the principal elements of this temple in miniature form are carved out, and even the khandi between the tiered moldings and the mastaka have been fashioned accordingly. The Baru and Gondi of this temple replica are profusely decorated with human figures of Jaina lineage. A stone image of Mahishasura Mardini of 12th century from Manbhum region, now displayed in the Indian Museum, should also be mentioned here. Surmounted by a huge amalako, with colossophineal, this Bhadradeul replica depicts a Kirti Mukho. This is an architectural part. Kirti Mukho motif in the center of the bow-shaped arch in its front. At the right side, a 10th century image of Rishabhanatha from Purulia also depicts a Bhadra Deul surmounted by a large amalako and colossophineal. Bhadra Deul motifs in wood carvings also show only the principal uppermost parts of the superstructure along the vertical plane. An 11th-12th century relief of Shura Sundari recovered at North Kajikashpa near Rampal, Dhaka, now in the Bangladesh National Museum, carries a depiction of the upper portion of the Tridata Bhadra Deul behind a tree-filed arch niche within which the celestial damsel is seen standing. The Bhadra Deul motif in this artwork show six gradually diminishing tiered moldings of the Gondi surmounted by an amalako of decorated tiered moldings crowned by a lotus bud type finial. Representation of a typical Bhadra Deul motif in terracotta art is extremely rare. A solitary instance is furnished by an inscribed 9th century terracotta ceiling from Nalanda, now preserved in the Ashutosh Museum. In this ceiling, an image of the Buddha in Bhumisparsha Mudra is installed in a pillared pointed segmental arch above which the three-tiered Gondi surmounted by an amalako is visible. A number of manuscript illustrations of the period, such as this one which depicts 12-armed Avalokiteshwar within a shrine, provide us with a glimpse of the architectonic varieties of contemporary Bhadra Deuls of Buddhist inspiration. Generally, the manuscript paintings carry the frontal view of the edifice, but occasionally they give us an idea of its ground plan too. Bhadra Deul motifs can be classified into three types of the basis of compositional elements. Three tiered types are mounted by an amalako or finial, that is called Bhadra. Tiered types are mounted by stupo, that is called stupo shirsha Bhadra, and tiered types are mounted by shikhara, that is shikhara shirsha Bhadra. Illustrated manuscripts which depict such motifs are drawn in outline. The inner space created by such outlines is filled up with a contrasting pigment. Though most of these manuscripts have been discovered outside the territorial limits of the Palashan Empire, they bear distinctive traits of the Palashan art idiom. In almost all cases, the motifs represent full architectonic forms of some temple or stupa in their frontal delineation. A good number of composite forms of shrine are found in Palo art. These composite forms are designated as Stupa Shishya Bhadra Deul and Shikhara Shishya Bhadra Deul. In the former, the stupa forms a distinctive part. In the former, stupa forms a distinctive part of the elevation of the structure, while in the latter, the stupa is replaced by a shikhara. Unlike a Bhadra Deul with stupa finial, here the stupa or the shikhara is a part of the elevation. This, here it is in the sculpture also. This manuscript painting depicts a Shikhara Shishya Bhadra Deul motif. The enclosure around the open portico of the shrine indicates that this slanting course of tiered roof probably served as a shade over the portico meant for using as a circumambulatory path. Several miniatures representing Shikhara Shishya Bhadra Deul also appear in a manuscript, Karanda Buha Sutra manuscript preserved in the British Library, London. In a painting depicting a two-armed Avalokiteshwar on folio 12b of the manuscript, the deity is seen standing within a shrine of three lobed arch surmounted by three tiered courses of a shikhara. Unlike Shikhara Shishya Bhadra Deul motif, which is found in art objects of different media, Stupa Shishya Bhadra Deul motifs are found only in pigment. The Cambridge University dated manuscript of Ashtashastrika Pragya Paramita, that is particularly 1015 Christian era, bears a Stupa Shishya Bhadra Deul motif. Here the stupa is placed on an amalaka. Yes.
Just ma'am, we have 10 minutes more time, so
okay.
sorry to interrupt you.
I can
please conclude in another 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll try. Almost I can do. Depiction of Rekha or Nagara style of temple architecture in its later manifestations in Eastern India can also be seen in the architectural motifs of Palestinian art. Quantitatively, however, it is fewer than the Bhadra and composite type deuls. So I can skip some examples. This is the Shivabari temple, and this is from Rishabhanath, where we can see the Rekha or Nagara type of temple. These two seals are from Bodh Gaya and Nalanda and kept in the Ashutosh Museum of Indian Art. And this good number of terracotta ceilings from Bihar bear Rekha Deul motifs. Two inscribed 11th century ceilings, one from Bodh Gaya and Nalanda, show Buddha seated in Bhumisparsha Mudra within a temple which closely resembles the Bodh Gaya temple. They give a majestic view of the superstructure. A unique piece of wood carving of a Manjushri image from Rampal in Bangladesh shows the upper portion of a Rekha Deul behind a trefoiled arch. The motif shows here a careful depiction of the Bhumis and Bhumi Amalaka of the Gandhi, surmounted by a large number of Amalaka Shila crowned by a finial. In this motif, the vertical curvature of the Gandhi shows the Pancharatta projections of the elevation of the temple. In a manuscript painting of Karanda Buha Sutra, we see two-armed deity seated inside the Garbhagriha of a shrine with a square opening. The roof is surmounted by a shikhara. Deul motifs of an altogether different type can be seen in the sculptures and paintings of the period. Designated as Chaitya Garbha Deul motifs, these motifs are essentially Buddhist in inspiration. Barring a few, the deity installed in such a shrine is usually Marichi, a dominant goddess in the Mahayana pantheon. Representations of the Chaitya Garbha motif are found in both stone and pigment. A miniature representing an eight-handed Marichi in a manuscript of the Karanda Buha Sutra shows superstructure of a Chaitya Garbha shrine up to the vaulted roof. Here I can skip some portions that here Marichi, Paurneshaburi, Namasangiti, Ashokakanta Marichi and Ushnisha Vijaya images. You can see this Chaitya Garbha type of Deul. A few of the miniatures appearing the manuscript of the Karanda Buha Sutra show the depictions of the motif. A miniature representing an eight-handed Marichi on folio 43b of the manuscript shows the superstructure of the Chaitya Garbha shrine up to the vaulted roof. As the upper margin of the folio is missing, the portion delineating the Chaitya above the vaulted roof is not visible. But in the next, we can see in the Paurneshaburi, the Amalak Shila, the above portion is very much visible. And a miniature of this is a multi-armed Loknath described as Sahasra Bhujo in the Astasahasrika Pragya Paramita. Here the deity is seen standing in Shamapada, made a shrine with the roof of two sets of sloping tiers. The edges of lower one are found resting on pillars. The upper part of the wall of the sanctum cella with the Chaitya window, this is Chaitya window, the motif is visible between the two tier stages of the sloping roof. It is surmounted by a finial. In the sculptural art also, we can find the Marichi depicted with an architectural structure following the description in the Sadhanamala, where the deity is mentioned as Chaitya Garbhasthita. That means residing within the Om of a Chaitya. So that's why we can demarcate this particular type of architecture as Chaitya Garbhadeul. These are the other examples of Chaitya Garbhadeul. Now I can switch over. I am almost at the fragments of my lecture. Torono is another important architectural motif in the artworks of the period. It means a gateway, arch, or entrance. It is a complete form of architecture in itself. Some of the ancient texts describe it as an ornament, that is bhushana, attached to the temples, royal palaces, and city entrances. The two principal constructional elements of a torono are the arch and the supporting pillars on which the arch exerts its thrust. The torono admits of various geometrical forms, and according to the number of its foils, toronos are classified as single foil, trefoil, pentafoil, and heptafoil. Of these, the most widely used was the trefoil arch. Toronos of various descriptions and names, as you see in the slide, can be seen in the artworks of the Palashino period. The Makura and Hangsha toronos in particular were represented in a very stylized manner. This is the last portion of my talk. Finally, I would like to show you the two sides of an Ayogapatto, a unique specimen of Jain religious art. An Ayogapatto generally serves two purposes: the symbolic installation of a Tirthankar in a temple and the representation of lanchanas symbolizing various Tirthankaras. But this Ayogapatto gives a clear picture of a ground plan of a Sarvatabhadra temple. You can see here a figure is seated in Baddha Padmasana, and there are the four entrance from this. So four side opening is called the Sarvatabhadra temple plan. But this Ayogapatto gives a clear picture of the ground plan of a Sarvatabhadra temple. Sarvatabhadra occupies an important position in Indian temple architecture along with the Nagara and Dravida styles. Ferguson has related this type of four-faced temple with Jain temple architecture. In this connection, it may be mentioned that S.K. Saraswati pointed out that there is one extant temple complex at Paharpur, that is Sompura Bihar, in the Rajshahi district of Bangladesh, that bears resemblance to the temple form referred to as Sarvatabhadra in ancient Indian architectural manuals. This is the opposite side of the Lanchanas and Jain Tirthankaras. Now I am coming to the concluding observations. In conclusion, I would like to say that a close study of the architectural motifs in art objects of various periods provides significant insights into the material culture of the periods concerned. These motifs should not be dismissed as mere products of the imagination of the artist. The artist also expressed through their art what they actually saw around them. The exercise of studying architectural motifs in art objects can be particularly fruitful in cases where there are no extant edifices from the period. Thank you for your patience.